Thanks for tuning into the Market Wrap. I'm Niraj Shah with Nickey Mirchandani, and it turned out to be a pretty decent last couple of hours of trade. I think the market, no doubt, soothed by the fact that the RBI veered towards a commentary on growth, no undue measures on liquidity, which the market feared as well, and as a result of which, the last 1 hour saw the Bank Nifty rally quite strongly. Actually, let's get the indices up on the screen before we talk about some specifics. So should get the Nifty up on the screen, and you will see that 1% uptick on the Nifty. What it belies, or what it shows, of course, is that Hindalco was up 4%, Alpratech was up 4%, Sun Pharma was up 3%. What it doesn't show is the kind of move that came into the Bank Nifty in the last 1 hour of trade. If we can, after this chart, we should just try and show the Bank Nifty intraday, but just hang on for a minute. Let's just first stick to that, because I also want to mark a couple of losers, of course. You can see ICICI Bank, by the way, 4% higher, and that was symptomatic of the point that I was making. Bharti Airtel had a good move. What didn't do well is Reliance stayed very quiet, and HDFC Live, after the deal yesterday, everybody thought that will go up. Went up a little bit, but hasn't quite done well. Now, just before we talk about what stood out in the session today, Nikki will join in for that. If we can, let's just show the intraday of the Bank Nifty, and you will see this surge that came into the Bank Nifty in the last 1 hour of trade. I think it gained between 250 to 300 points. Must have been around that region, because you see a clutch of these banks move up very, very strongly in the last 1 hour. I think the market took to the policy very kindly, I reckon, and which is why this reaction came about. It's not that the global markets are really surging. We did reasonably okay for ourselves. Anyways, that's the long and short of what the action was. Nikki Johnson, what stood out in the large cap space? Was it a banking name? Was it something else?
Yeah, you've clearly discussed much about banking space as a whole. I'm going to be focusing on industrials, Ultratech Cement, where there was a rally of more than 6.13% in intraday trade today. It's been rather doing too well for itself, even in comparison to the peers that we've seen from the start of the pandemic. It's in line with what the street was estimating. I mean, in terms of stock returns, it's a 60-65% kind of a return as compared to that of seen by ACC and Ambuja and Shree Cement. Of course, an outperformance coming in from Ambuja Cement there, but then with the kind of expansion plan that the company has now envisaged, looks like it's catching up with its peers, in terms of at least the capacity expansion which is taking place. Nomura came up with a report this morning after the company said that it's going to be adding up to the capacity by 18%, and it highlighted that at this point of time, the expansion cost will be below $60 per ton, which is the basic, like the industry standard is between $60 to $65 per ton. It's addressing the shortfall that it has witnessed both in east as well as central region, which in turn, there is more of demand coming in from these regions as compared to the supply situation out there. But then in the process, there seems to be some amount of competition, which also would be picking up. But at this point of time, the company, the Ultratech Cement, even in its con call, said that it's going to be chasing in profitability and not volumes, a trend which until now was playing out. So it's going to be a reversal of trend here, or strategy that the company is embarking upon with this kind of expansion, which in turn is a really way below the standards of $60 to $65 per ton. So some amount of cost savings coming in on that. On account of that, you've also seen other cement names, perking up in trade. But then, Niraj, I'm going to quickly come back to you and ask you about, you thought the RBI policy was pretty much kind. I think it was, accommodative stance continues here. What do you think the future outlook holds for you? I mean, in terms of the RBI monetary policy, you think the top priority of inflation over growth is the way to go about with it?
Well, there's a lot of reference about growth, to be fair, in this policy, and actually that is probably what is heartening, and maybe that is why, if you look at the Bank Nifty chart, you will see maybe that is why the market liked what it did. I mean, just look at that surge that came in post 1400 hours. The last couple of hours saw a really sharp up move for the banking stocks, and that is symptomatic of the kind of tone that the Reserve Bank of India used. So, I mean, the inflation targeting central bank, yes, but looking at growth, talking about how this is a once in a century event, and therefore the reactions would be proportionately that. So, yeah, I think that probably sums up what the policy stated. But yeah, interesting moves today, isn't it, viewers? Nikki was speaking about Ultratech, and I actually would have asked her about the resultant impact that came in on some of the other cement names too. Actually, Nikki, quick 30 seconds before we get to the mid caps. Dalmia Bharat came off about 5%. Is it a result of the fact that Ultratech is expanding in the east?
Yeah, Central India and East is the region where it's essentially operating in, sense of competition developing in, on account of which you've seen the market leader is now pushing in Dalmia Bharat to a little corner. It remains to be seen whether the capex or the strategy down that the company embarks upon would be watched upon. But then JK Cement and Star Cement were really the star performers of trade today in the mid-cap segment as a whole. But I'm going to quickly toss it back to you and let you address about the mid-cap segments first before I dwell into it.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Before we talk about these graphics, can you just pull up the chart, MOV chart very quickly and just show you what moved and what didn't, and the market breadth? It was positive. The market breadth was positive. Keep that at the back of your mind. So good positive market breadth today. 3:2 in favor of the advances. IRCTC, SpiceJet, Interglobe Aviation, all of these had some really strong moves, maybe on the back of the vaccine news. Chalet Hotels at 181, another 8% up for that one. So you had all of these. SCI up about 6% too. Didn't do well. Wakrangi yet again. So be careful about these names. Dalmia Bharat, we were talking about it. And Ambuja ICC, maybe on account of the rumor about the hike in royalty, really putting paid to any kind of hopes that these stocks had. But yeah, Nikki, very quickly, the broader end of the spectrum, what stood out?
Yeah, I'm going to be addressing NCC first because Jhunjhunwala and family, of course, is up the stake in the counter. September 2019, the stake was at 10.38. Come December, and the stake has been increased to 13.7. In fact, we had a conversation with the management today, and they said that order inflows have surpassed the guidance. They've revised the guidance upwards, expecting a good growth coming in even on the top line. What also did well, as I just mentioned, was JK Cement and Star Cement. Niraj, as a whole, the entire brokerage, or the sense that we're picking up, the industry is expected to record high EBITDA per ton for this entire financial year. CLSA has put a number to it. It says a 14% growth for most of the cement companies, on account of which you're seeing that amount of traction. What also did well was Sumitomo Chemicals, where the Axis Capital has initiated a coverage on this counter with a recommendation of add, and the target price has been set at around 310, which implies an uptick of nearly 10 to 11%. It says that the company right now is in sweet spot given the kind of deep India pan-India distribution it has, the kind of technicals for SCCJ, its product portfolio, access to global portfolio. These are all positives working in the favor. But I'm going to toss it back to you and ask you about the factors or the stocks that you'd be keeping an eye out on in tomorrow's trade.
I mean, just very quickly, I think if you just look at the trade takeaways today, you would sense that the broader market activity continues. So therefore, the mid caps and small caps would firmly remain in focus. The market-wide advanced decline ratio still favors a bullish stance. Metals, real estate, actually the theme just keeps on moving up on that economy opening up theme. And as we said, mixed day for cement, but maybe the uptrend seems intact. Nikki, what are the global markets?
At this point of time, it's a pretty picture. Positive cues coming in from both the US stock futures as well as European market. The latest American job numbers are expected to come down today, and we're expecting a data out there. So some amount of traction or some amount of cautiousness rather could be witnessed going ahead. But then net at this point of time, it's holding up in green. And the kind of manufacturing data that we've seen from Germany also seems to be optimistic. It's almost risen for the first time in the it's risen for a straight 6 months ahead of second lockdown, which has begun. So clearly some amount of optimism building in there. Remains to be seen how the domestic markets reacts to the FII activity that remains to be subdued at this point of time. But with this, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.